This farm, when my wife and I took it over, was basically fallowed and pretty much sterile. We're gonna just put nature back where she was and then see what happens. And she's exciting me on what she's offering us.
It is actually the hottest and driest environment in the entire United States.
It's incredible how much cooler it is in here. The temperature dropped pretty substantially as soon as we walked in here. So you're building a more precision-based system that has upfront capital investment, but it's going to save you money over time as you use fewer resources and have to make fewer repairs.
We're in our mill house here at Oatman Flats Ranch. This is a pretty big step for us out here.
We got a fintech lawyer, we got a soil scientist with tons of knowledge and experience, and they are regenerating the desert. Is it possible?
Absolutely.
Hey everybody, welcome to Heifer USA. We have an amazing farm tour for you today. We are here in Southwest Arizona at Oatman Flats Ranch. I'm here with Dax Hansen, owner of Oatman Flats Ranch, and Yadi Wang, farm manager. And we have so much we're gonna see today, showing you how regenerative agriculture is practiced in the desert in a brittle environment. Is totally different, unlike anything else we've seen on this channel. You're gonna see crop production, you're gonna see irrigation, you're gonna see a new mill operation, and so much more. We have a lot of knowledge to share with you, a lot of experience, and I can't wait to get started on the tour today. So guys, thank you so much for being with us. And why don't you start off, tell me a little bit about yourself, Dax.
Sure, hi, I'm Dax Hansen. I'm the owner of Oatman Flats Ranch with my wife, Leslie Hansen. This farm's been in my family since the 50s. It's 665 acres, as you said, in the southwestern part of the state along the lower Gila River. And we're out here growing heirloom and drought-resistant crops.
And Yadi, what is your role here on the farm?
My name is Yadi Wang. I'm a farm manager here at the farm. Joined the team since 2021 to the Hansen's family, and then to help restore ecological and economical viable farm here, hopefully to address carbon cycle and water cycle at the same scale to support our community as a whole.
This farm, when my wife and I took it over, was basically fallowed and pretty much sterile. Like that you didn't see anything growing in the fields, anything green. This behind us, this big tree, this big area back here was all barren too, but we planted conservation cover. And one of the interesting things we did by bringing in a bunch of legumes and forbs and native grasses is we brought back a bunch of birds too, and the birds have helped spread all these seeds. And now we have behind us not only a great windbreak and a place for shade for animals and forage, but we also have a cash crop. So one of the crops that we grow out here at Oatman Flats Ranch and we sell through Oatman Farms is mesquite flower. And you can see this big tree here, these big trees behind us, they're in bloom. They'll ultimately have a legume on them that you can turn into a flour through a hammer mill. Yeah, these are all going to turn into legumes eventually, right? These buds, these will have beans inside of them, and the Native Americans out here harvested millions of pounds of this every year as a food crop. And let's walk over in here where you can see the density of the trees as well. So just providing cover, and by the way, this could ultimately end up being natural shade for like a nursery.
One of the things when you think about in the arid environment is how do we manage above ground water. When we have bare soil, meaning that boundary is the soil layer, meaning any evaporated water molecule will become vaporized and then upwards, and we cannot retain anything. By increasing the density of our different layer of the crop, either it's cash crop or cover crop, we're actually providing evapotranspiration at different layers. And think about now the boundary is gonna be at the very top of the tree. Now for this particular field, in the 4-year span, we only irrigated 3 times. And very noticeably, right under the shade, predominant space, you will see this is Bermuda grass. If you look at the length of this Bermuda grass from the soil surface to top and number of shoots it has is very abnormal. And also you notice there's no seed on this. So interestingly for grasses, how they offspring, how they go through the dormancy is by actually putting all the effort and energy into seeding for it to allow its succession. The part with a lot of sun, with a lot of heat, the seeds has already dropped on the ground. You should see the new shoots coming out. That's a normal pattern in an arid environment how these grasses work.
It's incredible how much cooler it is in here also.
Yeah.
The temperature dropped pretty substantially as soon as we walked in here, and you immediately notice the ground cover, you immediately notice the very tall Bermuda grass, you hear the bees buzzing. I've seen rabbits, I've seen birds, so I think you guys are absolutely doing it right, doing an incredible job with this. And you said that you intentionally planted parts of this in the beginning, right?
Yeah, so we planted in this 3 acres. We planted native grasses, native forbs. We planted I don't know if we even had any mesquite in here, but we had the forbs and things that the birds were attracted to, and the birds brought in the mesquite. And so we have this mesquite bosque by just planting the conservation cover seed and letting nature do her thing. This is an example of a situation where we just said, we're going to just put nature back where she was and then see what happens. And she's exciting me on what she's offering us. In the west out here, we have salty water and we have salty soil. And so the way to actually water crops and to be able to force the salts down is through flood irrigation. Okay, and so this is an old school ditch. From our wells, we pump into this ditch, and this typically you would just use siphon tubes to water out from this ditch, okay? And then, we use lots of water. You send it horizontally across the field. This was a former cotton field, okay? This whole farm was cotton. My grandpa was one of the early cotton growers. Okay, so this may just look like a lot of weeds to people around here. This is globe mallow, I think.
Yep.
And by the way, you can make globe mallow tea out of this. Herbalists would love to come gather this. This is a native that we planted. We planted different grasses. There's mesquite trees that have been just brought up in the process. This is salt bush.
That's one of the Atroplat species.
And you can't see them really well right here. Maybe if we go down here, it's a little bit greener. There are some native grasses that we planted, but if you just look out through here, this is providing cover and shade. If you look at the before and after photos of Oatman Flats Ranch on our Oatman Farms Instagram account, you'll just see that this was all barren. But we planted the conservation cover. We gave it, actually for several years, we were just hoping the monsoons would come to just water it, and we got no monsoons. So we ended up just putting a little bit of water over the side of the ditch in this area, and then we brought in sheep and we mob grazed them. And so the sheep have stimulated the growth of the plants in this area, and it started to just push its way further north toward those mountains out there. But you see it's pretty thick, and it's animal habitat. You see this on the ground, we're starting to build some sort of topsoil down in here. And if you put some more flood irrigation, or we put some sprinklers on here,
Mm-hmm.
you'll end up having more topsoil, which by the way has blown away on all the farms in Arizona for decades. One thing you might observe is just how low these fields are compared to the ground around it. And part of that is just because of decades worth of erosion, wind erosion. When you're out here, when the wind's howling, you'll notice it. When we're first putting this farm back online, you'd have sand in your face and your eyes and your teeth. I mean, it was just gritty and just, really uncomfortable. Now we have most areas besides our roads that are anchored down with crops. And so when the wind howls through here, we don't have wind erosion.
And so, Yadi, what do you think, or what from your perspective is kind of the long-term plan and goal with this conservation area?
Well, I think let's walk back here. I think go stepwise, and I think observation is so important here, and then we have some drastic kind of activities happen that can show you a sequential step, and then the length of this step, how things can go. Now, when we convert this irrigation, we have to really disturb the soil and then to put the underground pipe in there. And now, if you turn around to see where this disturbed area considerably in the row crop kind of field, we would say that as a tillage, right?
Yeah.
When you till the field and you see the first species coming out is the weeds, is the Bermuda grass, is where bacteria dominated species tend to like the oxidation environment. Now, if we keep moving forward, or actually backward in time, and that's the most recent activity. This is the nearest most recent activity, which is about a year old. You see the dry biomass Bermuda grass. Right? So these are, compared to where you just saw under the mesquite trees, these are very stressed, very oxidized. It has been seeding, seed has been dropped. And because that, going through that succession process, and because the sunlight exposure and lack of inventory of the seeds, and also lack of the hoof management over time, and this area been hoof managed probably once completely and then partially for a second time. And that's where we don't have a lot of activity happening. Now, as you continue go along, you will see the Bermuda grass start facing away. And then as we transition into all these native vegetations, these are all native shrubs and forbs and grasses. And as you keep going, and these tall ones are saltbush, Etriplax. You can see completely covered, Bermuda grass just shift away. And that's a very dominant kind of biological succession, that signs of indications on how you balance that fungal to bacterial ratio, and using animal hoof management and trampling and to prune things down in order to actually allow them to grow bigger.
So as you can see, even though we're in the middle of the desert, with a little bit of intentional conservation practices, you can regenerate soil health, you can increase the armor on the soil, you can rotate livestock through them. The same practices and principles that we see in other environments that we've filmed in being applied here. And in just a few years' time, it's already having a transformative effect on the soil. It's really, really amazing to see.
So no-till, biodiversity, conservation cover.
Well, the most first principle, actually everything we're trying to support is the living roots. That is the one of the foremost, for us, I think is the most important thing, is so long as we can keep the living roots, that means we can actually keep the water turnover, microbial activity. That's how everything else happens. And is all based on managing the physical activities.
Regenerating the desert obviously requires water, which, as Yadi will tell you in a minute, there's not a lot of falling from the sky here every year. So they've improvised several different solutions to irrigate their property, and we're going to cover all of those now. So Yadi, what can you tell us about how you guys are regenerating the desert with using water?
Yeah, let me go back to the context a little bit here in this geographic location. It is actually the hottest and driest environment in the entire United States. We have a mean annual temperature is about 87 degrees, and the hottest day of the summer can reach 127 degrees in the past 2 years. And we have less than 4 inches of rainfall coming down from the sky. And that being said, in order to grow particular row crop that require irrigation, and we have a very alkaline water, and we have very saline soil based on the geological context. And the soil here is about 2.3 million years old formation, over 55% of the clay content. It's good to hold moisture, but also is actually releasing a lot of salt. That's why the soil is saline. Having the salty water to the salty soil, a lot of time is rubbing salt on wound. That's why in the area, southwest area, and we often see flood irrigation as one of the better practice to pushing those salt down, particularly sodium, to allow the soil to not disperse, and in exchange of some of the moisture retention and fluctuation.
All right, so we're going to show you exactly how this well pump works. You're going to see where it comes out and how the flood irrigation flows into the fields. And then Yadi's going to show you the new system that they are building here on the farm to improve their irrigation practices over time. So we're going to cover all of that in this segment.
This is one of the classic turbine well, like using for this large amount of water production in this area. And so essentially how it works is the pump is submergible through the column pipe into the ground and to below the depth of the water. We call that static water level. That's normal aquifer, purge aquifer, that surface water level. Typically go down to say 30 feet or 40 feet below that, so that you have a drawdown. When you draw down, meaning you create a cone of depression, drawing water in, and that process is, if you see that barrel, that's called the oil barrel, which is actually have the dripper oil going down there to actually separate the water in order for the pump to pump that water out. As a common practice, not only it lubricate the pump to work well over time, but at the same time is actually allow you to draw the water at the appropriate depth to pump upwards, going through an electric engine, which a lot of farms convert those into a solar generated pump engine, or adding a different transformer to make that variable frequency to allow you pump water as much as little as you want. But for us, it's a constant speed, so constant revolution. So we got same amount of water coming out so long as that the draw of the cone of depression, the water level is at the same ratio. And water pump out coming through this pipeline underground, that's how it feed into our the discharge into our flood irrigation, the canal currently, to support the flood irrigation activity in the field.
And which crops are you using this system for right now?
So right now, for all the farming activity, including any row crop, and the mesquite forest you see, periodically we irrigate, or conservation cover, periodically we water. Everything is using the same system, is pumping from the same place.
And how deep down did you say this well goes?
So this particular well has a static water level, meaning the surface of purge aquifer is about 85 feet, which is the shallow water. And the pump is actually going to 120 feet-ish, so which allow you create that cone of depression, allow that pump is always constantly submerged underwater to be able to draw the water out.
All right, so what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so earlier we discussed, like, from the well, we have the underground pipe, that water is being transported to where our ditch or canal. Right now we're standing in front of a canal, and you see this is the discharge pipe connected directly with the wells. Around 300 to 400 gallons per minute is coming out from this discharge pipe. As you notice, there's a valve on top, and the reason we put that valve is historically we have different parcels of the canal manage different part of the field. And if you look just north ahead of us, there's another white discharge pipe coming out from the ground just across the second part of the fence. And so essentially, when we shut off this valve right here from this pipe, from this discharge, and we're automatically sending the water to the other canal. So that's how historically we can manage to irrigate the field you're seeing just south of me, or the field that is north of us. This canal is actually covering about 35 acres of our heirloom white Sonora wheat production. In the whole round of irrigation, it should be roughly around 2 weeks of the process to have all the crop being irrigated one time. So we're gonna go there next, and then to see how the siphon tube work, and then how many tube that from this productivity can draw into the field, and then for how long and how wide that is.
Okay, let's go check out the siphon tubes.
Now we're standing in front of the canal as a portion where we saw the discharge water going to the canal, and that canal, the water migrate about 2,500 feet or even a little longer to where one of these borders that we build under the flood irrigation regime right now. So the border right here you're looking at, when I say border, is from the little dirt mound to another little dirt mound. In between, we call it one border. In our particular case, this border width is 30 feet. The reason we put in that distance is because our no-till planter is 15 feet. So we can go 2 passes to get everything planted. And the combine harvester we use is 30 feet, so that we can go 1 pass to actually have everything harvested.
And so tell me, what are you growing in this field right now? When was it planted? And maybe what was before and after this?
Behind me, we're currently growing white sonora wheat, which is a heirloom wheat Pedro Quino brought in here over 300 years ago. And it has a very good adaptation for arid environment. It has been continuing grown by indigenous community and now that being commercially grown for many growers for a long time. It's a soft white wheat. It's really good for waffle pancake, good for tortilla, and it has a very unique flavor. And Dax likes to describe that as a terroir. But what I have found, this particular crop is unique adaptation as epigenetic changes over time is very rapid compared to any other crop. And so it's a short season crop. We planted around January 10th here in our environment, and we would expect this crop to be fully grown and harvest by the beginning of June. The goal is, after we harvesting the crop, we're gonna immediately drill the cover crop seed in there. Typically, I've always used at least 14 species in the worm season. So, and this summer, especially after this wheat season of the flood irrigation, we're gonna be completely turned over to our new sprinkler irrigation, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. So we're gonna have a completely different irrigation regime and then the crop management when we get there.
So you've seen how their current irrigation system has worked and is working right now. And as Yadi described, it's almost working too well in coordination with the amount of water penetration that they've been building into their soil here. And so because of that, they're actually getting ready to convert their irrigation system to a sprinkler irrigation. And we're gonna go show you that right now.
What you're looking at right now is, these are called the solid set system. So what they do is, each of these pipe is 30 foot long with a sprinkler riser coming out, and they're perfectly can be attached into the black valves we saw in the field, and then we'll just connect all them together for however long we need for the distance of the crop we're cultivating. And laterally, these are set 40 feet apart to allow the 100% full coverage with slight overlap. The reason we chose this solid set system to start with is because sprinkler irrigation can provide a rainfall regime is closest to what Mother Nature provides to us, the rainfall. It cannot be replicated through the drip irrigation, or it cannot be provided from the flood irrigation. That's where the next step we want to go, is to mimic rainfall. And secondary, the reason we chose this mobile solid set laterally connected is because I try to avoid to use linear irrigation or pivot irrigation. The reason is, for the longevity of this life, the time span of this farm, potentially we're gonna add tree rows to achieve added cropping. By having linear set or pivot irrigation, we're gonna automatically eliminate that possibility of growing trees. So there's a several different combination of thoughts on the long-term wise how this farm can be developed. And then overall, we just want to leave the flexibility in the field. So those risers you saw can be equally used as a flood irrigation when we simply open the valve, or connect with this sprinkler irrigation system to mimic the rainfall. Or in the future, if water resources is really challenging, we can grow arid environment crops like agave or prickly pear using drip irrigation also. So it's more versatile. It is a lot of capital investment as a whole to start, but over a longevity of time, it creates the most flexibility to adapt into our environmental condition to what we have to do responsibly for the ecological services.
Okay, so we're just adjacent to the field and the irrigation canal that you just saw, and Yadi's going to show you the new system that they're building, which is really amazing, and describe how it's going to function.
Right here, you're seeing is 10 acre-feet of the reservoir. And the reason we built this reservoir is really to activate our savings account. Meaning, if we can pre-deposit our water resources within this structure, that means we have a larger volume so long as we can calculate how much water is going to the field for how many acre-feet of the water or acre inches of the water in the span of 1 day or 2 days. Then we know the exact amount of water budget, and actually we know exactly at when we should turn on the pump to be able to build that budget for us to actually spend into our field. So this is not only reduce our expenses on fixing a well, which can cost over $100,000 in this region. It's really expensive. At the same token, that we are actually have this perennial system. Not only we use this as a water budgeting system, at the same time we can use this as a water treatment system. It's the biological or reduction of the chemical inventory. All those things can happen within here prior entering into the field. So that's a kind of a dual purpose in that way.
So just to summarize, so you're building a more precision-based system that has upfront capital investment, but it's going to save you money over time as you use fewer resources and have to make fewer repairs. Is that right?
In principle, yes. Let's say this whole system, the amount of dollars we put on just building a reservoir, having the engine and filter set up, is probably a little cheaper or equivalent to fixing one well up. But these have a long-lasting kind of effort for us to not only to understand our water budget, but also giving us an opportunity to treat the water and manage our water resources, manage our water distribution, and manage our labor resources in a way that we can actually in return to hopefully regain that economic value through time.
And so when you say treat the water, what kind of treatments will you do to it?
For instance, adding live algae to help water alkalinity issues, or even adding appropriate citrus acid, sometimes to balance the pH, changing the concentration of those ions within the electric conductivity, that range, and all can help. Or in addition, we can add some sort of biological fertigation through this system, through the engine and pump, go through into the system. So there's a, or actually on-site made biochar. We prune a lot of trees, we will have a lot of woody material, and we can build a pyrolysis process and to actually adding biochar near where the engine is going to be sucking water up to actually pre-filter particularly sodium or chloride, those ions, to really help reduce long-term risks or into the field for those salt buildup. Now this reservoir is building in the center of the farm, so if we turn on the valve on this side, and the water will go evenly distributing into the field to those risers in that field, or vice versa, is going to go into this field, which is some of the risers we saw in the field. And by that point, we're going to connect where our sprinkler system is, where amount of water for amount of acreage will come out all at once.
So as you can see, they're building an entire new system to really precisely refine how much water they're using here on the farm for the future. It's a big upfront investment, but like Yadi said, this is going to make a big difference on the farm in the future for resource allocation, for budgeting, for being really, really precise, and for plant health, for soil health. So this is a really crucial system for your farm, isn't it?
It's instrumental.
Absolutely.
So white Sonora wheat was pretty much non-existent until about 15 years ago. That it used to be the dominant crop here, but during the Green Revolution it got replaced with modern varieties of wheat. But Chris Bianco and Jeff Zimmerman and a number of other, Gary Nabhan, a number of other people in Arizona applied for a grant to be able to bring back and commercialize white Sonora wheat, and that's why we have enough volume that we can commercialize it on a large scale here at Oatman Flats Ranch.
And you guys mill this product on site here, is that right?
Yep, we grow it. We have it harvested, cleaned in a facility that we partnered to build, and then we mill it on site and turn it into baked goods as well with commercial baking partners here in the area.
And people can purchase the flour themselves, is that right?
People can purchase the flour at oatmanfarms.com. We supply chefs and bakers as well, like on a large commercial basis. But we sell freshly stone milled, stone ground grain to our customers.
Say Dex was kind enough to feed us lunch in his kitchen with some of the rolls that are made from his product, and even heated up some pancakes for us and a few other products that he's working on that are in development that aren't even available to consumers yet, and it was all just absolutely incredible. I'm a foodie, my wife and I are big bakers, and we go out of our way to source the highest quality products for our baked goods, and I immediately asked Dex, like, where can I buy this? How can I get my hands on it? Because as you probably know, it's really hard to get good quality flour. I mean, you go to the grocery store and not much is available. And just from my mouth to your ears, it's definitely very, very good product, and I hope that you will try it. Dex, where are we?
We're in our mill house here at Oatman Flats Ranch. This is a pretty big step for us out here, where we're now able to mill our flour on a large scale. We historically had an 8-inch Meadows mill back in that corner with this sifter. And we bought that, by the way, just to be doing R&D. We weren't intending to be doing large-scale milling. We have some amazing partnerships with some large-scale mills. We've worked with Karen Spring Mills and Barton Springs Mill in the past. But it is just a really big deal to transport wheat all the way up to Washington or over to Texas to be milled. It adds significant cost in terms of logistics and time. And we're also working with some schools and others through the Try It Local program in Arizona, where we needed to be able to produce the food all here in state. So we decided to invest in a new American stone mill, which can produce upwards of 250 pounds of flour an hour here. So this is granite. I think it's Vermont granite stone. These are each 1,400 pounds. One in the bottom, one on the top. There's a hopper where we feed the wheat in. It mills it. We can either produce whole wheat stone milled flour, or we can create a series of sifted flours in here in this with the sifter. And Anaï is going to show us how it's done. But this is a game changer for us to be able to produce fresh flour delivered up to Phoenix and Tucson almost instantaneously and fulfilled on the Oatman Farms e-commerce website.
And Yadi's gonna walk us through it kind of as it goes?
Yeah.
Whenever she's ready.
As Dax mentioned, like this mill can generate whole grain meal as well as the sifted flour at different grade. And what Anaï is doing right now is actually to transfer the grain into the hopper. So essentially, once the hopper is filled with grain, she will actually start warming up the system, and you will hear when she starts moving and the stone actually is spinning.
And now you're hearing is what the grain dropping down from the hopper, which you can see at the speed what we set up. And then that grain will go into the stone mill, and then the runner stone is crushing the product directly into this mill. And then now the whole grain portion is closed up, and our sifted portion is opened up. So the grain is actually going through the sifting process and coming down. You can see the flour is being produced at the bottom chamber right away. And it's the fresh process. And then all the way to the end, you will see some of the bran is being generated. So in terms of whole grain, the total amount of the total product from 4 of the beans coming out is actually a combination of the whole grain. But in this case, we're just sifting them in different grades for different purposes and for different food service or chef to use. It has been a game changer for us from milling 20 pounds per hour using the small mill we had to now we can reach actually on the high quality flour at around 150 pounds per hour of the rate. We haven't reached the full potential, but we're pretty comfortable with where we at because not only the way we grow, the variety we grow, adding that nutrition value is important, and the way we process and how do we control the temperature, holding that nutritional value, the integrity of the final product is equally important. So taking that slower process, it's sometimes in return for a better product.
Where does it go once you got it full in here? You want to show me where it goes?
Yeah, so once we mill all this flour, and we will put them in bags, and it's our 50-pound bags, and then we'll weigh it, and then after weighing, we have the sewing machine sew it, and from there, all the flours are going on pallets, either go through different large wholesale order or smaller customer orders, or sometimes go into small bags and being boxed, and all these boxes will go to food bank tomorrow for the pre-order that was made a few weeks ago. So it's a kind of an integrated process that we're going through, and then we're still learning how to logistically making this more efficient. But I think when you're building a local food economy, there's always going to be a learning curve, always going to be a continuation of the working with the stakeholder to understand the processes and then to grow from there together. The flour from there will directly pack into here brown bag, and these are our pure flour product that will go and distribute either our e-commerce or food bank, or some of the schools will order this package, but in general, like for restaurant, the food services, they're gonna go with the 50-pound bags in general. And we do actually fraction of the flour, as what Dax described early, we'll actually do the packaging ourselves and making into these baking mixes. This is particular one is the mesquite waffle pancake mixes. That is the white sonora wheat and plus the mesquite flour in there. That is going to be distributed into.
And I had that for lunch earlier, and it was dynamite. It was so delicious.
Check out Oatman Farms for the product.
Regenerative agriculture isn't just about any one particular farm or family. It takes a community to regenerate things. And so in this video, we're going to show you next where this product from Oatman Farms goes, just one of the many places. We're going to take a look at a food co-op in Tucson, Arizona, where they're delivering their product and working with even more farmers to make regenerative agriculture a reality. So Dax, Yadi, thank you guys so much for taking the time to show us around your farm today. We can't appreciate you enough.
Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you for it.
Appreciate it.
All right, keep watching. Regenerative agriculture isn't just something you can see in the soil. You can taste it. You can feel it in the way people connect. After filming at Oatman Flats Ranch, I traveled to Tucson, Arizona, where I first visited a restaurant that was serving products using the wheat from Oatman Flats Ranch. And let me tell you, the table bread and the steak sandwich that were served were unforgettable. But the story didn't stop at one meal. This farm's impact reaches far beyond, into food hubs, public schools, and communities all across Arizona. I followed this trail of flour through Tucson to a local food hub where something incredible is happening.
My name is Eric Stanford. We're at the Pivot Produce Warehouse. We've been in this warehouse for about 5 or 6 years, and it's where we aggregate food from local farms in southern and central Arizona, and we distribute it across institutional markets, direct-to-consumer markets, and wholesale restaurant markets. We have a relationship with Tucson Unified School District, which is the largest district in southern Arizona at least. I think there's 88 schools. A couple months ago, Yadi came to me and was like, do you think the school district would be interested in bread products? And we dropped off a box of samples and the food service department got excited about it, and they got really excited about it and put in a huge order. I think it was 2,200 dozen dinner rolls that ended up being delivered yesterday to the school district. Out at Oatman, they had to mill all the wheat, had to deliver it to a bakery in Phoenix, and then yesterday finally a truck left Phoenix and brought that product to the school district here in Tucson.
That kind of connection doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of vision, collaboration, and a deep belief that food systems can and should work for people, not just profit.
My name is Gontran Cepeda. I'm one of the co-founders of the Dry Cooperative. We approach this work out of a concern for others and ourselves, and just looking to raise all boats. I mean, simply so that folks can eat. One of the largest challenges facing producers is market distortions created by decades of policies from the government where industrial farming is preferred. So in the end, having producers in a network for themselves to be able to connect, share resources and ideas, we think has some virtue, and it's one of the reasons we're intent on carrying forward with the cooperatives.
Pivot Produce has become the connector, the translator between small farms and institutions. They've helped schools, hospitals, and homes get access to food that's not just local, but meaningful.
You know, Tucson's the place where I fell in love with local food and now have created this like business and, you know, job for myself out of it.
It turns out regeneration isn't just about land. It's about relationships, trust, and infrastructure. Because no farm, no matter how brilliant, regenerates a food system alone. When I bit into that restaurant meal at lunch, it wasn't just delicious, it was personal. Because I had seen where it came from. The soil, the roots, the people. That's the taste of regeneration. Regenerative agriculture takes more than just one farm. It takes a community of people like Yadi, Dax, Eric, Gontran, and you. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us at Heifer USA. Like and subscribe for more regenerative farming content, and if you've enjoyed this farm tour, watch this video next to see yet another amazing farm in the United States that is pushing the boundaries of regenerative agriculture and transforming our food system one meal at a time.